Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Palm Tree Sports. My name is Corey Pujols, your host. And as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, guys. Your direct feed for all that is sports. And hello, happy Saturday to everybody. Got a packed show for you guys. Can't wait to get started. Got a lot to look out for as well as things to watch for tonight and tomorrow. Got a loaded weekend with sports. So I can't wait to get into all of that with you guys. And, of course, as always, let's go ahead and start right off the top with some NFL news, guys. So let's dive right into this right now. We're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Unfortunately, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the talk of the town for all the wrong reasons right now. I don't enjoy bringing this information to you guys, but for those who have not heard it, the biggest bit of news coming out of Tampa Bay right now, right, is that Super Bowl champion Devin White has requested a trade from Tampa Bay. Now, guys, normally I take a little bit of time to go through a spiel here, but unfortunately time is of the essence today. And on top of that, this is kind of a situation that came way out of left field. Nobody here in Tampa Bay saw this coming, and it's not something that we're excited about. Now, the rest of the league may be excited about it because, a Pro Bowl linebacker caliber type player is possibly going to end up on the market, and that's not something that we want because he's our guy. We drafted him 5th overall a few years back, as you guys might remember. He was very instrumental in winning the Super Bowl for us, including a pick off of Drew Brees that would help seal that game in the playoffs, followed by another pick in the Super Bowl, which would end the Chiefs' chance for a comeback during that play, that specific drive, guys. That interception was in the end zone. It was off of Travis Kelce's hand. So, guys, like I said, this isn't something that we're excited about in Tampa Bay. I'm going to go ahead and get this part out of the way first because this is not something that I'm going to enjoy doing. But I was raised to call a spade and call things for what they are. And, guys, I hate to say it, but I think Devin White is a bit arrogant right now. Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve the money. He, by all means, deserves the money. But let me ask you guys a question. If somebody would have sat down with Devin White and told you, hey, you have a chance to win a Super Bowl by acquiring Tom Brady, Gronkowski, Leonard Fournette, and company. However, a few years later, you're going to have to hold it down for a year or two before you get paid by the same team that drafted you, a team that wants to keep you and a team that wants to pay you. Would you trade a big payday for a Super Bowl ring? Now, I'm going to answer this question for you guys. And for everybody, it may be different, so I'll answer it 2 different ways. If you're somebody who's in it for the money, then chase the money. Who cares about Super Bowl rings? If you love the game of football, truly love the game of football, if you had the heart for football that, say, Randy Moss, Tom Brady, some of these players who were the greats at their positions, Jerry Rice, you may not sacrifice the Super Bowl rings. You see what I'm saying? For the money. You wouldn't sacrifice it. You'd take the rings. And the point that I'm making is this. Devin, you've had a heck of a first 5 years, or 4.5 going on the 5th year now. He's on his 5th year option for those who don't know. You've had a heck of a run. And it's not far-fetched to say that you're one of the best outside linebackers in the entire league right now. With that being said, I ask you this question. Did you truly, really ever want to be in Tampa Bay? I know it can't just be a money issue. You can't just be all about the money kind of guy after what you were able to accomplish, especially with the help of Tom Brady, Gronkowski, Leonard Fournette, and company. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grill him for that. Guys, this is, in my opinion, a bit of immaturity on his half. There's no loyalty in a decision-making process like this, especially if you're only after the money. You say, heck, well, I already have a Super Bowl ring. Now I just want the money. Then you don't love the game, bro. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. You don't love the game the way the game is meant to be loved. Because let me tell you guys something. Back in 1963, 64 during the time of the first Super Bowl. I mean, why don't you guys go look at the salaries that these guys were making? They weren't making hundreds of thousands of dollars, guys. Not like the guys now are making millions, all right? That the game was much more slower back then. Not only was it slower, the money was slower, all right, guys? So that basically means that a big payday for somebody back then isn't even a portion of what the payday would be for a player now in the league. And I'm saying that because Devin White is truly a phenomenal player. He's truly a player that we don't want to get rid of and we don't want to lose. But the truth is, he's being immature and he's being arrogant. I think he seems to forget that before Tom Brady got here, we had Jameis Winston at quarterback who threw 30 interceptions and ended 7-9 on the season with the #1 ranked offense and a top 10 ranked defense, but couldn't even make the playoffs. You see what I'm saying, guys? You got to take a step back and look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, listen, yeah, I do deserve this money and it's going to come to me. But what good do I do shooting myself in the foot, especially with a team that drafted me 5th overall and put me in the starting rotation and always had my best interests at heart? Devin, I'm a huge fan of yours. All right? Huge fan. I saw what you did in LSU. I'm a Gator. We play y'all every year. I know just what you're capable of, bro. And so does the rest of the city. With that being said, you need to have some humility, my guy. Now, asking for $18 to $20 million is absolutely doable next year. But you're still within your first 5 years, bro. And if you keep trying to follow the examples of some of these Jalen Ramseys and some of these other guys, you're going to end up exactly like Jalen Ramsey. Not really that good. Much better on paper than he is in person. And see, I get to say that because we saw Mike Evans cook him firsthand. You said, oh, I got Mike. I'll take him. I don't need no safety help. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you freaking do, dude. All right. So I'm going to leave that there. I had to go off on him a little bit. The only saving grace behind this is the situation that he went through. This is not something that I take admirability of talking about, but I do understand that he lost his father in the middle of the season last year. And that means losing a piece of guidance, specifically experience in his life that may be able to sit him down and say, hey, whoa, you know, you're doing a bit too much here, guy. This is the team that drafted you. You might want to consider holding your part of the end down so that way when the money is there, they can pay. Maybe they even pay you even more. All I'm saying is, guys, that Jason Licht has done a phenomenal job this offseason bringing guys in on one-year contracts to see how they perform and see if they deserve a long-term contract when the money's available. I imagine chief among them is going to be Devin White. All right? I've already discussed this situation before, but outside of Devin White, the only person that Tampa Bay truly needs to pay next year, all right, is going to be Antoine Winfield Jr. That's going to be the only guy outside of Devin White. And you'll see him crying, complaining over a contract. So, you know, I'm going to need Devin to put on his cowboy boots, all right, and go walk the horse one more time. And I mean that. I'm a little emotional because the guy's a phenomenal talent. But there's no loyalty in a decision like this. What, you got your ring and you're out because Tom is out? You're not Lenny. And for the record, Lenny told us he was here because of Tom. When Tom retired, he wanted out. That makes sense. No hard feelings there. But we drafted you 5th overall, bro. Gotta have some loyalty there. And gotta suspect that Jason Licht knows exactly what he's doing because, again, he's done a phenomenal job since becoming the GM. He's done nothing but sign tremendous players, including Tom Brady, Gronkowski, and Lenny. So what makes you think he wouldn't re-sign you? All right. That's all I got for Devin White. I'm going to leave it at that. Let's move on to the rest of the things going on in Tampa Bay. So for those who do not know, a couple of more headlines for Tampa Bay. Gerald McCoy has retired after 11 seasons in the NFL. This guy was a 6-time Pro Bowler underneath Tampa Bay's banner. There's no doubt in my mind that he'll end up in the Ring of Honor. He was a tremendous talent for us, but he was never quite the same person after he left Tampa Bay. And we all know that. With that being said, thank you so much for what you did, Gerald McCoy. I got to meet Gerald in person. Larger-than-life athlete. He's just humongous. And he's also a very nice guy. He's into a lot of superhero stuff, and I think he's also into anime. I ran into him at the mall, so that was the coolest part was, you know, I was working at Busch Gardens at the time. Woohoo, me and my sister. Shout out to my sister. And we were at the mall picking up some stuff, and, you know, at the end of the day, he was a great guy, great teammate, and you enjoy seeing him. And we enjoyed seeing him in Tampa. So congratulations on a great Tampa Bay career. We look forward to you being up to the Ring of Honor, and we can't wait to see what your further endeavors take you on. Hopefully, we'll see you around Tampa Bay some more now that you're retired. Now, let's talk about somebody who's not retired. Shaq Barrett, guys. Reports have Shaq Barrett returning at and before week 1, should be ready to go by week 1. So that's something for you guys to take consideration. I really think that he will be a difference maker. He hasn't dealt with this injury before, but he's been injured before and he's always been able to bounce back. Let's just hope that he can maintain his healthiness. Achilles is always a freak injury when it happens. It's not quite like an MCL or ACL where it's very common. So with that being said, let's just wish the best for him. Can't wait to have him back. Lord knows we're going to need him. We missed him pretty much all last season. And I look forward to seeing what he's able to do for us, especially if he gets some time to play in the preseason. But he did say that he should be ready to go by week 1. So that's some phenomenal news coming out of Tampa Bay as far as Shaq Barrett is concerned. The return of the Creamsicles has been confirmed in Tampa Bay. They will be wearing the Creamsicles this year. My only regret is that we did not get to see Tom Brady in one. And Gronk, for that matter. And Lenny, for that matter. But nonetheless, the return of the Creamsicles is here. We'll get to see Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and a bunch of other guys in it. And that's going to be a phenomenal thing because there are a lot of people down here and across the world who really enjoy the Creamsicle jerseys. So that's just something that you guys should look forward to, and don't be surprised when it pops up. Lastly, the Bucs have signed journeyman offensive tackle Matt Feiler. We will see how that works out. He's been on quite a few teams, San Diego, the Giants, Pittsburgh. And he's found some starting time. We'll see if he's able to earn a starting job here in Tampa. If not, I hope that he can maintain himself as a solid backup. We will need it. And for the most part, guys, that's pretty much all that's going on. For those who are familiar with Matt, my apologies. With Matt, you are, you've noticed that he's been on quite a few teams since his introduction to the league. So, again, we'll just have to wait and see how things go in OTAs and preseason. And once that continues to build itself up, we'll be able to go from there. I also agree with you, my friend, that Devin White, that would be his loss. Going to a contender gets you more money. And if you end up on a bad team, you played yourself, right? I don't think that he should leave, but if he decides to leave, I'm pretty sure Jason White's going to get something well worth what he is worth on paper and in person. I just don't want to see the proposed trade that I saw online. There was one on Twitter that said that the Bucs trade Devin White for the 6th overall pick from the Lions. The problem with that is, guys, and I want you guys to consider this, trading a player for draft picks means you still have 2 roles to fill with draft picks. Now you're just filling them with unexperienced individuals. Devin White has been an absolute phenomenal talent for us, and he's already got a Super Bowl ring. He's got leadership and experience under his belt. I don't think that's worth any draft picks this year, guys. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. I don't look at the entire draft and think, hey, this guy is going to be a better fit for us than Devin White is in our linebacking core, especially now that Lavonte David has re-signed a 1-year deal. I don't feel like ripping that tandem apart. I think it's one of the best tandems in all of football, and we'd be dumb to let either of those guys go before they're ready to. Great mention, Dad. Ryan Neal was the highest graded safety among the safeties that played enough games to be graded last year, coming from Seattle. He is tremendous in the secondary. He is phenomenal on the blitz, which is something that Tampa Bay hasn't really had much of really ever. The best blitzing defensive back we ever had was Rondé Barber, who has since been retired for quite a few years now. So bringing in Ryan Neal was absolutely a steal. But here's the deal. He already trains down here in South Tampa, which he considers, in his words, to be his second home. So that was a phenomenal pickup for us. I look forward to seeing what he's able to do, especially with Antoine Winfield Jr. 2 halt safeties in the backfield is just going to be a terror for a lot of teams. And if we can draft us a good cornerback, we'll have a very nasty secondary. And I look forward to seeing what Feiler is able to do for us as well. Thank God. He was on the Chargers and was on a team with a pass-happy, kind of frenzied offense. So we'll be able to utilize that. And again, I just hope he's able to be solid. We have Luke Gadecki, who I'm not 100% sold on. So if Feiler could come in here and earn that starting job, I'll take it. We'll definitely take it. But that's it for Tampa Bay, guys. Let's go ahead and move on over to the Jags. Now, the Jags and the Fins, respectively, don't have a lot going on just because they don't have as much drama, right? They just don't have the drama that Tampa has with Devin White wanting to trade. And, we had Again, of course, our former defensive tackle Gerald McCoy retiring. So there's a lot of kind of buzzing going on in Tampa. But as far as the Jags are concerned, the Jags and the Fins specifically are both focused on the draft right now. Both of these teams have very minimal needs in comparison to a team like Tampa Bay, who is basically going to need to refill almost half of its roster. And when you look at the strong points that Miami and Jacksonville have respectively, they both have pretty solid receiving cores, though Miami is going to be in the market for a receiver or two for sure. They're going to be looking at those in the draft, absolutely. The main difference between these two teams, though, is the defensive secondary. The Jaguars desperately need to get a safety. Budda Baker is on their radar. That's definitely somebody that they could get their hands on. However, if the money's not right, they're not going to be able to sign. They're going to have to draft. Either way, it's going to have to be addressed in this wrapping up of the offseason as far as the talent acquisition is concerned. Now, for Miami just got Jalen Ramsey, and I went on the record earlier saying Jalen Ramsey is a lot better on paper than he is in person. I stand by that. I've seen him burned many times. Marshawn Lattimore, though I do not like the Saints, is a better cornerback, okay, than Jalen Ramsey. Hence the reason why he hasn't left New Orleans, okay? And you look at somebody like Jalen Ramsey, who's now been on his third team, he's only been in the league 5-6 years, that raises a lot of questions. I mean, this guy clearly, as soon as he doesn't like something, he's out. He's a diva, okay? I don't respect divas. I don't, because there's nothing that they do that demands the type of respect for us to give them. So Jalen Ramsey, in my opinion, again, look for him to be kind of a flop this year. I don't think he's going to be anywhere as good as he had been with the Rams or with the Jaguars for that matter. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but that's just my professional opinion there. Meanwhile, the Jaguars, again, are still going to have to fill that safety position, as I mentioned earlier. And because of that, like I said, Budda Baker seems to be the best move for them. It would be a power move to acquire him. We'll just have to wait and see what they do. As both teams are looking to the draft for, to straighten up their teams, the Dolphins also need some help on the offensive and defensive line. More specifically on the defensive line after losing one of their interior defensive linemen. And now they're in talks with Christian Watson for an extension. They're going to have to extend him, okay? He's the best person on their D-line right now besides Bradley Chubb, who they just acquired, but we know Bradley Chubb has had some injury issues, so we'll have to wait and see how this season fans out for them. They're going to need another big guy interior, period. The end, there's no way around that, so we'll see if they're able to address that in the offseason. This time around, or if they're just going to have to take somebody off the street of the practice squad and make it work for them. I'm not exactly 100% sure how it's going to turn out, especially with the cap situation in Miami going up and down as it is. They've got a couple of big guys that they've signed recently, so there's no guarantee that, they'll be able to do it in free agency. They may just have to go draft. And if they have to go draft, that means they may have to trade up in the draft. So that's just something for Miami fans to consider. Anybody else paying attention to Miami, that's just something for you to look at when you're doing your mock draft picks. As for the Jaguars, as I mentioned, they're definitely going to have to shore up their defensive backfield. And the outside of that, they could touch up their offensive line. They could touch up the defensive line. But for the most part, they're probably in the best position out of the three teams here in Florida. I look forward to seeing what Jacksonville is able to do. They have been drafting very well the last few years. No better draft than acquiring Trevor Etienne and Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. My apologies, guys. That duo from Clemson was absolutely phenomenal. I told you guys that they could be fire, and they made the playoffs for the first time in a very long time. Well, not very long time, but the first time since they won off and done under Lenny Fournette in that Power 5 offense that they were running a few years back. But you guys know how that went. Lenny was very unhappy with the Jaguars and found himself here in Tampa Bay, where he was able to win a Super Bowl. So I look forward, again, like I said, to seeing what the Jags are able to do. The Dolphins could be a sleeper. However, I don't even think that they're the class of the AFC East. I would reserve that right for the Buffalo Bills, who will only seem to get better. I understand there's a little drama going on there in Buffalo, but let's be honest, who doesn't want to play with Josh Allen right now? The only people who don't want to play with Josh Allen right now are the people playing with Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, okay? So, and if you're not even one of those guys, everybody's name is up in the air. With that being said, let's go ahead and take our first break, guys. And when we get back, we'll talk what's going on in college football. Don't expect much from college football, but I do have a few things to talk about. Gators fans, you're not going to be happy about this, but when I get back, we'll cover all of that. All right, guys? I'll be back in 2, and thank you again for joining me here on Palm Tree Sports. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Rose Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Make no mistake about it, guys. Marcus kills it every time. I do not cover mixed martial arts and boxing primarily. It's just something I do a little bit of in my off time. I study martial arts, something that's near and dear to my heart. But for the most part, I just touch up on some things, give you some things to look at, especially since it's really big down here in South Florida for those who don't know. Bunch of training gyms, including my own Kaizen, which is down here. And guys, if you look forward to martial arts, check out, in general, if you look forward to any type of martial art, check out Gloves Off with Marcus. The guy kills it. And I personally enjoy it myself. But here we're talking about Palm Tree Sports, guys, and I am your host, Corey Pujols. It's brought to you by IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. And guys, let's jump right into the college football aspect of things, right? College football, again, is in the spring training, right? So this is basically the flowers blooming on the college season, if you will. This is the beginning, the first water in March, if you will, the first rain in March, or however they say it back in the day. Basically, the point that I'm making is everybody's in their infant stages right now. All the college teams are figuring out who they are, what they're good at, what they're going to be good at, what they're going to be bad at, what they need to work on, what they need to do in the transfer portal, all right? Now, for those who don't know, the transfer portal is basically where players go when they don't feel that they fit the mold or they're looking for something different. As we mentioned before, a change of scenery sometimes for a team is exactly what they need. We've seen it many, many times over, and I'm sure we'll see it again. And it looks like the Gators are going to have to go right back into it. Guys, I regret to inform you that the orange and blue game, the legendary game that's played as the first spring game of the spring training regiment that begins, which starts pretty much at the end of March and continues on until the summertime. Guys, the game was terrible. The game was absolutely terrible. I saw some highlights. Needless to say, when the final play of the game is a field goal to separate a tie, and the tie is 7-7, speechless. And not the good kind of speechless, guys. The bad kind of speechless. I, as a Gator fan, and as many Gator fans around me in my family and so on and so forth, have come used to seeing the players who are going to explode in the regular season really take shape and take form here in this spring game, in the legendary orange and blue game. That didn't take place. It just didn't take place, guys. Nobody stood out. The best group of players on the field were clearly the running backs. Guys, that was the best group of players on the field last year. This is nothing new. Like, we're not seeing an improvement here. Now, I understand Billy Napier is only moving into his, third season as the coach of the Florida Gators, but that's pretty much still no excuse when you have the name Florida Gators says it all, guys. You know, I mean, when you think Florida, do you not think Tim Tebow, Percy Harvin, all these legendary players from back in the day, even to now, Anthony Richardson? They got him top 5 in the quarterback discussion as far as the draft is concerned, and clearly the most talented quarterback in the draft, and that's speaking from a physical perspective. That doesn't include reading defenses and making plays from an IQ, position. So the defense actually looks good, but it's probably just because the offense looks so bad. Outside of Ricky Parcell, Pretty Ricky, there's pretty much no receivers on this team, to say the least. So when you take pretty much no receivers and, well, let's just call Graham and Jack what they are. They're just project quarterbacks trying to figure out what they're doing. It's really sad to say, guys. Both quarterbacks look terrible. Neither one of these guys look like him. You know, the I'm him trend going on Twitter. Neither one of these guys are him. All right, they're not even Anthony Richardson. They're not half of Anthony Richardson, and that's sad. And it also says a lot. Now, Billy Napier has been known for a running offense, clearly. Well, that's what he has right now. Unfortunately, that may be all he has right now. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but I would tend to think that if this year does not go well under Billy Napier, that he might be somewhere on the hot seat, especially having as much disposal as he had in the transfer portal. We had a bunch of players leave, players going all over the place. Some, stayed in state, some left. The point behind me saying that is simple. For all the activity that's been going on, the recruitment in the future looks good. But how far away is the future is the question that we're asking. Now, I know that may seem like a generally specific question, but I really mean it. How far is the future, and the future being success for the University of Florida is the question that we're asking. So, unfortunately, we'll just have to wait and see. There has been one good thing that came out of this week. We did have a 5-star commit from one safety, Xavier. Last name, I can't pronounce it properly, so I'm not going to try to, but I'm sure you guys can see it online if you look. And if you just type in Florida Gators, pretty much anywhere you see, the Gator emblem, you click on it, it'll pop up in the news. We haven't had a 5-star safety commit in some time, so that was a blessing. But we'll have to wait and see what happens, especially with the way these quarterbacks are playing. And I will say this. With Anthony Richardson departing to the NFL, no doubt going to be a first-round draft pick this year, the quarterback room is in absolute turmoil. Okay? We're going to have to wait and see what happens, but I'm not impressed with any of these guys. I don't look forward to seeing any of these guys play. If you guys watched the ball game last year, Jack Miller III was a perfect example of what I mean, and I'm sorry to have to rip these guys, but guys, this is not high school. You're in college. You're in the place that will literally determine your future. What you do on college tape is what all 32 teams and the teams starting in the, for those who don't know, USFL is starting this year. Those teams are going to be looking at undrafted players from the NFL, as well as the XFL, which just wrapped up their season. You're going to be looking for players. If you don't put anything on tape, there's going to be no reason to sign you. And yes, there's more football and pro football being played than ever before, but I mean, even they want good quarterbacks, guys. Hopefully these guys can put something on tape this year. They can rally behind Billy Napier and really figure out what it is they're trying to do here at Florida and what they're trying to do on a college football field, so that way they can figure it out in the NFL and so on and so on. That's the only thing I can say for the Florida Gators. Let's move on over to the Noles and the Canes. Now, again, there's not a whole lot of action going on simply because, well, the Noles are the best-looking team right now out of Florida. It's scary to say, but it is what it is. This team is returning more starters than any of the other 3 teams across the board with the most experience. Not only that, they are adding on more talent left and right. They had a 4-star commit, young man by the name of LaWayne McCoy, committed to Florida State, 4-star again, so that's an elite player that they're going to be grabbing. Their spring training and spring practices have been going very, very well. They've been solid. All facets of the team are performing pretty well. There don't seem to be too many holes, but then again, you come to expect that when the team has been rallying around each other for the last 2.5, almost 3 years now. Florida State's going to look, like I said, to be the best team coming out of Florida. We'll have to wait and see how that plays itself out, but they could very well be in position to win the ACC, guys. If they do, you heard it here first at Palm Tree Sports. Clemson's always going to be a hard one to deal with, but they could do it, and I'm a Gator saying that. So we'll see what happens with those boys. Florida State, like I said, being the best team in Florida right now, that leaves the Noles, or not Noles, my apologies, the Canes. Now, the Canes, they had a very good orange and white game, guys. They aired it out a lot. Quarterbacks look good. Receivers look good. Offensive linemen need some help. I've seen the defensive line push the pocket a lot in that orange and white game, but that just also means that Miami's defensive line and their defensive coordinator may be actually gelling, and they may be figuring something out on that side of the ball. If they are, look for them to be a very opportunistic team, as they were in the early 2000s, the late 80s, and so on for those people who know what those teams were able to do. They dominated the 80s, and they pretty much dominated the early 2000s for a couple of years at least. So Miami's going to look to return to form there. Again, they land an elite prospect in Chance Robinson, who committed to Miami. This guy's going to be a game breaker. I believe he's playing wide receiver for them, so that's going to be a phenomenal look for them with already a receiving core that seems to know how to stretch the field. That defensive secondary, was there any indication during the orange and white game that they're going to need some help? That was it. The final score to the orange and white game was orange 34, white 23. So like I said, look for both sides of the ball to perfect themselves during this season. It is quickly looking like Florida is becoming the minority in Florida, where it's normally been backwards. And Florida's kind of a top on, the recruiting and the player standard. Well, that torch has been passed to Florida State, at least in recent memory it has, and now it looks like Miami's creeping up the back end, guys. So just be prepared to see a lot more highlights from Florida State and Miami. And as far as the Gators are concerned, we'll keep tabs and just see what they're able to do. And as you said, Adam, Florida, you think Disney, that's probably the best thing going on right now in Florida is Disney or Busch Gardens, whichever, depending on where you're at, right? If you're North Florida or Orlando area, you're thinking Disney. If you're South Florida and you're not in Miami, you're either thinking Miami Beach or you're thinking Busch Gardens. So, hey, I mean, everybody has what they enjoy the most. Disney is very nice for those who have never been. And not only Disney, Universal Studios as well, guys. I personally would take Universal Studios over Disney, and that's saying a lot. In any case, I live here, so that you come to expect those kind of things from somebody that lives here. Now, let's go ahead and slide on to the NBA real quick, because we really only have one team to talk about in the NBA. That's the Miami Heat. They were almost dead in the water, guys. As you guys know, the Orlando Magic season is over, so there's not really much to talk about there. But the Heat are still in the hunt, guys. They're still in the races, and they have a chance to do something that I don't think Miami has ever done in their history, which is make an NBA Finals and or win an NBA Finals as a 7 seed, 8 seed. I don't remember which seed it was. They like to think it was the 7. No, it was the 8 seed they locked up because they're playing the number 1 seed, which is the Bucks. So that's the tough part. They got to play the Bucks. I said this at the beginning of the season, way back when, that the Bucks would be the class of the East. Here we are. They're the best team in the East, guys. I mean, I was trying to tell you, Giannis is hungry, man. Giannis is hungry. These guys, boys, playing inspired basketball, but we're not here to cover the Milwaukee Bucks. We're here to cover the Heat, and unfortunately, the Heat are going to have a tall order in front of them. Now, they have a head coach that can help them get it done. They have a lot of talent. They're going to have to space the ball out. They're going to have to play very well on the perimeter as well as in the paint. JB is going to have to be very creative inside. Tyler Hero is going to have to be consistent. The rest of the team, Lowry and the boys, they're going to have to play defense. Bam Adebayo, they're going to have to get rebounds. They're going to have to be big in the middle, and they're going to have to double Giannis every chance they get. You can't let Giannis pop off. I believe that the team is a little bit easier to beat when Giannis is held in check. Unfortunately, we haven't seen that man held in check in 4 or 5 years. Okay, so tall order. We'll see what happens. Milwaukee looks good. The Heat, they're struggling, but they're hanging in there, guys. They were able to beat the Bulls 102-91 to earn their bid into the playoffs. And I just think that if they can, look, obviously if they can beat Milwaukee, they can go all the way. If they can't beat Milwaukee, well, I mean, that's not going to be too far-fetched from what anybody thought was going to happen to begin with. I think that we're going to have a great series. Again, JB and the boys are going to have to ball out, and they're going to have to utilize the mid-range and the perimeter better than they have all season if they want to win. Because in the paint, I wouldn't try to risk it for the biscuit, guys. I just would not. You find yourself getting swept or going, 3-1 headed into the 5th, and that's not what you want. Okay, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what the Heat are able to do. That game tomorrow, in case you're interested in watching it, the first game of that series will be tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. All right, that's Sunday 5:30 p.m. Guys, if you're checking it out. My predictions for the series: I think that if the Heat play to their optimal abilities, they can take this series in at best 6 games, at worst 7 games. However, if they don't show up at all, I would not be surprised if Milwaukee walked all over them and didn't give them more than one win in this series to move on to the next series, guys. So that's just something for you guys to keep in mind, especially if you are a Heat fan. I am a Heat fan. I've been a Heat fan for a very long time, and I just hope that they're able to perform well. But I also understand, like I said, that the class of the East is clearly the Milwaukee Bucks, and that's the team that they got to play. So we'll see what happens. Best of luck to the Heat. I look forward to seeing what they're able to do tomorrow, but we'll just have to take it one game at a time, guys. Let's go ahead and get into our second break. This will be the last break for the show, guys, and when we get back, we'll wrap it up with some MLB, NHL, and we'll talk a little bit of what to watch tonight in the MMA bracket as far as what's going on there, and a little I told you so about last week, if you dig what I mean. All right, UFC 287 wrapped up, and it was a phenomenal show, guys. We'll talk about that when we get back. Again, my name is Corey Pujols, your host for Palm Tree Sports. As always, is brought to you by IU Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Damn! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS. The SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And listen, you know he's going to kill it too, guys. If you haven't checked it out, now's the time. This is the sign. Go give it a shot. As I mentioned this before, I take a lot of inspiration from the guys around me doing what they do. I love what I do. I love being here. I love being able to talk to you guys on a regular basis. More importantly, I love the fact that you guys are here and you get to listen to me talk and run my mouth for a little while about some opinions that may or may not be factual or even believable. But we're going to keep it real here. That's one thing we're going to do on Palm Tree Sports. Speaking of, I am your host, Corey Pujols. As always, is brought to you by eSports Radio. You know what it is. Your direct feed for all that is sports. And guys, let's get into the last bit of the show. Got a few more things to cover. This is probably the more exciting part of the show because this is where all the teams in Florida are being successful are at. Specifically, our Rays. That's right, boys. For those who do not know, the Tampa Bay Rays started the season 13-0. All right, guys. Now, that's a monumental thing, especially for a team like us. I've always said this before. I have all the faith in my teams here in the South. I love them all. I rep them all. I can't get enough. I'm a sports guy. It is what it is. I love watching the Rays play baseball. I love watching the Bolts play hockey, except for what they did against the Maple Leafs the other day. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. The point that I'm making is this. baseball is America's favorite pastime. It's no different for us, especially here in my family. Being a Boricua, I love baseball. It's in my blood, I guess you could say. And, it's no different being here in Tampa, watching our Rays do their thing. And like I said, watching them go on this phenomenal run of 13 wins, being one game away from history, guys. Well, obviously, they made history, but one game away from solidifying themselves as the greatest start in MLB history. Unfortunately, they dropped that game to the Blue Jays. It was a heartbreaker. But I'm not going to dwell on the negativity. I'm going to be happy. They are now currently 13-2 after dropping the second game against the Blue Jays. But again, guys, when you win 13 games in a row, at some point it was going to stop. We all know this. At some point there was going to be a halt in the train, and it was going to have to go backwards a little bit, and that's okay, because sometimes the train has to go backwards before it can full ahead on steam forward, right? And that's what I'm expecting here from the Rays. Hopefully they're getting some rest. Hopefully they're starting to feel a little bit better. Like I said, going hard for 13 games is no easy feat, so congratulations to our Rays. I specifically enjoyed them bringing back the Devil Rays uniforms. For those who don't know, I like the Rays uniforms now, but I was born in 94. I grew up watching the Rays. The first Rays t-shirt I ever had was a Devil Rays t-shirt. The first Rays hat I ever had was a Devil Rays hat. I love the Devil Rays aesthetic. I've always have, and I can't wait to get what I really want to do. For those who don't know, this is what I want. This is what I really want. I want to get custom Devil Rays jersey, but I want Randy Arozarena. I want his jersey specifically, but as a Devil Rays jersey. You get what I'm saying? That would be hot, right, guys? That's what I think that's going to be my Christmas wish for this coming up for Christmas later on. I'll make it happen. Do I have to talk to Santa? You feel me? In any case, back to what's going on there. Like I said, they just dropped the second game in a row. At the end of the day, those boys are going to be tired, all right? Like I said, 13 wins in a row is going to come to a stop at some point. So now they can just go 159-2, right? That's what it is now, just win the rest of the games out. They were losing, last time I saw it was 4-1. I think the score was 5-2 by the end of the game. Is what it is. Like I said, this is part of a series, so we're going to see the Blue Jays again tomorrow at 1:37 p.m. If you're looking to watch that game, just set your clock for 1:40. You'll be able to catch the game on time if you check it out. It'll just shy of 2 o'clock, so you don't want to miss that one, especially if you have nothing going on. I know my grandfather's most likely going to be watching. A couple of my uncles will be watching it. Hell, I might be watching it myself once I get back from church, guys. So we look forward to that game. Hopefully they can bounce back, get a dub, and turn that 13 into a 14, and we can go from there, boys. I absolutely enjoy what they're able to do this year. This team is definitely one of the more well put together teams in the league, and I just hope that they can continue it. Brandon Lau has been absolutely phenomenal. Same thing with Randy Arozarena and the rest of the guys, and the defense has been pretty phenomenal as well. So let's just try to keep it up, guys. They're tied for the longest active streak in MLB history. It's only been done, I think, 3 other times in the entire MLB's history. So that's just something for you guys, a little food for thought to chew on there, if you will. And like I said, they've done an absolutely phenomenal job crushing it at the beginning of the season. Now, obviously, the teams they played haven't been necessarily the best teams, but we know how baseball is. One team's the worst team at the beginning of the season, halfway through the season, or towards the end of the season, they're one of the top 3 or 4 teams in their respective, conference division at etc. You guys get what I mean. Let's not sell anybody short. Let's just hope that the Rays can continue to bounce back and do better starting tomorrow. I believe in this team. We've been to a World Series twice in a row. I've harped on this many times before. I just hope and pray that we can return and win one. I mean, I don't care about, 1 out of 3. I just want a World Series victory for our teams. The last thing we're missing in the city that would complete the quad. I don't know how to say trifecta, but with 4. So I'm just going to say that would complete the circle around the sun, if you will. All right. All of our teams in Tampa will have won a championship at that point, truly making this place Title Town, which it already is. But, I'm just speaking objectively here, guys. Now, speaking of Title Town, to a team that has won quite a few titles and a team that we love very, very well, a team that they said, hey, you guys can't play ice hockey. Yes, we can. Our Bolts were able to wrap up the season with a win against the Red Wings, which is phenomenal. They went 5-0 on the Red Wings. Okay, you could tell they were pissed off about that last game against the the Maple Leafs, guys. That's Toronto. Now, I'm not impartial. I like Toronto. I think Toronto's a beautiful place. I've never been, but I've seen pictures. One of my favorite musical acts comes from Toronto. One of my sister's favorite musical acts comes from Toronto. Toronto, Ontario, Canada is also home to a lot of professional wrestlers, as well as the Stu Dungeon. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a legendary place in its own right. However, I don't care about that when it's time to play hockey. and it's time to play hockey, guys. So the last game against the Maple Leafs, which is a preview to the opening series of the playoffs that the Bolts would be playing against the Toronto Maple Leafs, showed a game that was at 1-1. The Bolts scored. The score was overturned. 30 seconds later, Toronto scores, I believe, on an alleged power play. I got to admit, I turned my head for a split second, and they scored. It was so aggravating to see. It's never what you want, especially when you thought you had the lead, and then the other team takes the lead. It's just such a whirlwind, such a head turn, such a spin, and something straight out of left field, and that's exactly what happened. That game ended up finishing a 4-3, and I believe we went 1 for 10 on power plays after that second score, which was pretty much terrible. I'm sitting here watching it, and I just couldn't believe that we could not score on a power play, guys. We kept shooting ourselves in the foot, and that's not something that is like us to do, but clearly when we do it, we lose. All right, so let's try to eliminate the shooting ourselves in the foot Bolts, especially against a high emotional, high octane team like Toronto. These guys came out with a lot of passion to play. We came out with passion, but we end up, falling flat on our face. So guys, let's try to spin that on the Maple Leafs and try to take this series. Period. I don't want to see any excuses. All I want to see is cracking and scoring. That's it. All right, put those guys up against the glass, make them regret playing you guys, score every chance you get, score on the power plays, and eat them up. All right, we've got 3 Stanley Cups, 2 of them in the last 3 years, guys. Let's reassert ourselves. We done made it this far. There's no need for us to quit now. I believe in our Bolts. I believe in what they can do, and it's all going to start here against the Maple Leafs. All right, guys? Now, if you're interested in watching that game, the Maple Leafs series starts... was it Tuesday? I think it is. I'm sorry. I actually forgot to write that part down. I do apologize, guys. But at the end of the day, that series is coming up. And again, it's the first playoff series for the Bolts and for the Maple Leafs to kind of kick things off. Really, who knows what's going to happen after that, as the rest of the teams in the playoffs will be hitting their strides in their opening playoff ceremonies and series against each other. So we'll just have to wait and see. We got to take care of one game at a time. We got to take care of one team at a time. We've done it before. We can do it again. And again, I have all the faith in my Tampa Bay Bolts. They play phenomenal hockey, and I'm proud of what they're able to accomplish and what they have been able to accomplish. And Steven Stamkos, one more time, if it ever gets around to him, I just want to congratulate him on 1,000 games. He's been a model of success and leadership for us over these years, and he will no doubt be a first ballot Hall of Famer when his time comes. Thank him so much for what he is doing and continues to do for us, and I thank the Bolts in advance for winning this series, because Lord knows I just don't want y'all to lose to Toronto again. That's just what it comes down to, all right? I believe in you guys. Let's go. Now then, the last part of the show, guys, I got to touch up a little bit on the MMA side of things. Something that my heart really has been set on for some years now. And tonight is no different. I'm going to start off with the fight night, and we'll talk about 287 in a second. Now, tonight is a fight night. We have... at 8:30, it'll be the main event is Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen. Now, for those who don't know, Max Holloway is one of my favorite fighters of all time. He is considered at any given time the best boxer inside the UFC, both self-proclaimed and the stats would say the same thing, actually. Max Holloway is coming in with a 23-7 record, but guys, I want you to take into consideration that 3 of those losses are to the same man. So he's really only lost to 5 people in his career, if you will, or 4 people technically, and that's to Alexander Volkanovski, who has been the pound for pound best in the last few years, if you guys keep track of that. So he's going against this young prospect in Arnold Allen, who's got a 19-1 UFC record, or a mixed martial arts record, a very phenomenal record. That fight's going to be at flyweight 145, so look forward to that. Co-main event is going to be Edson Barboza, Storage Striker, against Billy Quarantillo. Not very familiar with Billy Quarantillo, though he's coming in with a 17-4 record. Very good record, guys. However, Edson Barboza has been known to take people's heads off. He's a tremendous striker. He really never loses when he gets outstriked, which doesn't happen often. Nonetheless, he's at a 22-11 record of martial arts, with a lot of his fights coming inside the UFC, so he is a vet. If I were you guys, I'd look forward to this one. This fight night has striking knockouts written all over it, all right? Especially if you like boxing or kickboxing or both. Where I train in Muay Thai. Both of these events will have Muay Thai striking in those, so you guys will get to see a little bit of what I do in my training, and just look forward to some fireworks. Now, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, guys. One of my favorite fighters to ever grace the octagon, one of my favorite fighters to ever walk the planet Earth. From a personal perspective, I can't get enough of this guy. Israel Adesanya has reclaimed and regained his middleweight throne, his middleweight crown, and his middleweight title, and has solidified himself as truly one of the pound-for-pound best fighters, not only to ever do it, but currently as well. Now, for those who do not know, Alexander Volkanovski, the guy who beat Max Holloway, trains with Israel Adesanya. So when I told you guys last week, and I quote, look for Izzy to finish this fight in the second round by TKO or KO, what happened? Izzy, second round, knockout. You guys are going to want to listen to me. I know what I'm talking about in this world of martial arts. There's one thing I do well, it's martial arts. That includes the predicting part. So, last week I was overly excited. I'm still overly excited. I'm still getting chills. I'm still watching the fight over and over again. Needless to say, there's so much knowledge in that fight. So for those who have not seen UFC 287, I urge you and I would encourage you, if you ever thought about spending money on an event and watching it and seeing an guys, basically the point is, I'm going to keep it very simple, okay? UFC 287 is the culmination of what mixed martial arts truly is. We got tons of knockouts, tons of finishes. It was an absolutely phenomenal card from top to bottom, and if you didn't see it, you're missing out. Period. The end. And also, if you're a fan of the David and Goliath story, this is that story. For those who do not know, Alex Pineda and Israel Adesanya had hooked it up this was the fourth meeting between the two. Two of those fights took place in kickboxing. The first fight was a decision that went Alex's way. However, if you watch that fight, Izzy won it. He outstruck him. He had him rocked and badly hurt multiple times. He was the better fighter, but for some reason they gave it to Alex Pineda. Why? I don't know. You look at the second fight. The second fight, Alex gets badly hurt and gets a standing 8 count, which is the same thing that they do in boxing. But if you're not good to go, you don't go. Well, they let him go, and the bell saved him. Comes out the next round, Izzy starts parrying the right hand, and then Alex knocks him out with the left. For those who do not know, that counter left is the counter to the right if you're parrying the right, okay? So, the third fight, which took place inside the UFC, inside the octagon, saw Alex Pineda knock out Israel Adesanya. That knockout was on the feet. Izzy was lucid by his own words, but the truth to the matter is that he was rocked, he was hurt, and I don't really see how he was going to make it out unless he did something like what he did in this fourth fight. This fourth fight saw Izzy silence all the doubters, all the naysayers, all the people that said he couldn't get it done. He played possum, and he used the same combination that he used to rock Alex Pineda in the first fight. In the second fight, the difference is, for those who break down the fights, you'll see that especially on Gloves Off, Marcus probably covered this already, but if you look at that fight, in the first fight, he goes left hook, overhand right, followed by left hook again, and then it would have been another overhand right. Izzy saw the overhand right work, and instead of using the left hook, overhand right, followed by the left hook again, followed by another overhand right, he goes left hook to set up the distance for an overhand right, and then delivers a second overhand right on the target, followed by the left hook. So basically, he just switched the last two punches, and in doing so, he was able to regain his crown in the most beautiful form, the most solidifying knockout, and also probably the knockout of the year so far, at least for us. So I'm very happy for him. I'm over the moon for him, as you guys can tell. I can't talk about it enough. I'm very proud of him, and I look forward to seeing what's next for him. We'll have to see the next fight because Alex Pineda has confirmed he is going up to 205, guys. And with that being said, there could be a unification bout between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pineda, which, if Izzy is to win, this could be what the UFC is working for. If Alex Pineda wins the light heavyweight championship, look for Izzy to challenge Alex Pineda for the light heavyweight champion and possibly become a 2-throne champion, a 2-crown champion, and a 2-belt champion. Well, guys, that's pretty much all that I got for you. Like I said, tonight, UFC Fight Night is going to be the main thing to check out. We got baseball tomorrow. We got basketball tomorrow. And aside from that, guys, just focus on having a good weekend. Spend time with your family. Be safe if you go out. Don't drink too much, of course. You know, the world's getting crazier by the day, so I tell you, spend time with your loved ones. Don't waste these opportunities that we have. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on Palm Tree Sports. I had an excellent time talking to you guys. I feel like today was a phenomenal show, and I thank you guys for joining me this evening. I look forward to talking to you guys again, same place, same time next week. And, of course, on Twitter, I'm always reachable at Corey Pujols if you ever want to talk anything sports, anything at all. Again, thank you so much for joining me here on Palm Tree Sports, and I can't wait to talk to you again next time. You guys enjoy the weekend and have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.